time to introduce Sarah Foxton. I've known her for a couple years at least, and she came to me originally wanting to do a project about communication and gender in terms of sports. And I think that various things happened, including your professional and other opportunities related to your other interests, which is digital design, right? And so we sort of shifted because of those interests and time commitments away from a thesis project that would be ethnographic to a project that focuses on Disney movies. And in particular, so I think that Sarah's identity as an athlete, especially you're the captain, right, of the field hockey team, really plays a role in this research, even if it's not immediately apparent. And so while she was going to look at things like socializing into being a proper sports person, sportsman in a gendered sort of way on the field, that sort of idea of socializing into being a princess became her focus in this work, and how in relation with the mothers and older sister in the case of one of the films, this socialization into being a princess comes to be, and then also how they resist that socialization. So anyway, it's been a real pleasure working with you, and I look forward to your presentation. Thanks.
Well, thank you so much, Professor Billings. I think you nailed it in what I'm about to cover. Also, Professor Kasana is handing out, there's 4 copies of the printed out project report that basically, this is the quick version of that. So feel free to skim, and they're lined pretty well. So, well, first, I'm very excited to share my capstone project, Language, Socialization, and Princessly Behavior in Modern Disney Movies. So before we get started, I just want to cover a bit more background on me and the significance of this project. So I'm an anthropology major, modified with human-centered design, with a minor in digital arts. And at Dartmouth, just like Professor Billings mentioned, I was on the varsity field hockey team and a designer at the Dolly Lab. And there's been a wide range of things that have inspired this project, some of which being Professor Billings' language and culture class, which really opened up my eyes to how language impacts our everyday interactions at Dartmouth and beyond. And within that, an area that really struck me was how gender plays into this. So throughout my entire experience as a female athlete, I think I've always had in the back of my mind that, like, oh my gosh, sports are masculine, or you shouldn't dress this way, or you should behave this way on the field. And I saw this independent study as a really great way to dig into that. And we looked into politeness and breaching. And breaches distinguish experts from novices and socialize novices into experts. So I was curious what happens when one doesn't abide by the traditional norms and they breach. And I found out that through sports, I was actually breaching a lot. So some of my preliminary project goals include exploring the language, socialization, and politeness in modern Disney princess movies, analyze the verbal and nonverbal strategies used to influence how language, embodiment, and routines produce gender ideals on and off the screen, and deduct common themes from Brave and Frozen, what messages are sent to future generations. And this is a clip from Gender is a Phenomenon, from Judith Butler, who said, "Gender is a phenomenon that is produced all the time and reproduced all the time." So to dig in a little deeper, why Brave and Frozen? Well, in terms of politeness and gendered behavior, I was viewing princesses as the pinnacle of that. And there's been a lot of debate as to the value and influence that pop culture and digital media has on younger generations as well, and the messages embedded in all of those areas. And Brave, which was made in 2012, is about Merida's journey to carve her own path in life. As the daughter of King Fergus and Queen Eleanor, she defies the age-old tradition of arranged marriage. And Frozen is about Anna's journey to save the kingdom of Arendelle from eternal winter because of her sister Elsa's powers. Anna must team up with Kristoff throughout the movie to resolve Elsa's freezing of Arendelle. So here is a sneak peek into some of the methods. So in the fall, this was a 2-term project. I dug into Living Language by Ahern. Also read some chapters from Language and Gender by Eckert. Read more chapters from The Hidden Life of Girls. Read a bunch of papers, some of which being Embodied Sociolinguistics and Learning Through the Breach. And as I dive more into my analysis and methods, I think it's important to establish a couple key terms. So first, a breach is when one acts out of line or in other ways to contest or subvert their respective role expectations. Embodiment is the idea that the body is discursive as well as material. And here is a clip of Merida just breaching and kind of going against any traditional behavior with a nonverbal breach. So there's verbal and nonverbal. Verbal breaches through language, nonverbal through body language. Language socialization investigates how linguistic and cultural development are interlinked and vary across cultures. Face-saving, preserving, or intended to preserve one's dignity, self-respect, or good reputation. So also here's a screenshot from Brave where one of the men is appalled by Merida's behavior, and I think that illustrates the language socialization at stake. Throughout my analysis, I had 3 guiding questions. 1, how and why are modern Disney princesses socialized linguistically in embodied ways into their gendered royal place? 2, in what ways do Disney princesses resist this socialization and to what ends? And 3, how can princessly breaches help understand how embodied language co-construct gender ideals on and off the screen? And from there, I spent the entire winter going through an initial mapping where I just did a fresh watch of the movies, then tracing to identify frames, gaze, and breaches, connecting different themes, and then finally developing claims. And my process included many Google Sheets and watching Brave and Frozen 4 times each. And each time my analysis got a little deeper in what I was looking for. And here's a cleaner version of what the coding sheet ultimately ended up being, where I would record the time, the context, so what the breach was, in a quote, the breach whether it was nonverbal or verbal, the gaze, which ranged from the characters within the movie, or the audience, which was my gaze from an outsider, the frame, which Professor Billings and I established would be official royal business and romance and family dynamics as well, which norms you were violating, whether it was just politeness or princessly behavior, and the intentionality behind the breach, whether it was intentional or an accident. So from there, after watching Brave and Frozen 4 times each, plugged it all in and started to pull out those themes and analyze what was occurring in these movies, and pulled more insights as well. And for my analysis, to answer my question 1, how are modern Disney princesses socialized linguistically into the gendered royal place? I found that as novices, Merida and Anna employ modes of face-saving as a form of protection from Eleanor and Elsa's expert judgment of linguistic socialization. So as the novices navigate socialization, which is the process that a child or novice acquires knowledge, they were put into these distinct roles. So you can see that Elsa takes on the role as caregiver for Anna, and Merida and Eleanor, Merida's mom, takes on that role as well. And within these roles, when the novices would breach, they would avoid eye contact and try to hide from the experts. And I pulled this from The Hidden Life of Girls, where women's linguistic behavior is often characterized as being concerned with cooperation and avoidance of conflict. And I was really surprised to see how, even in Disney movies, the animators were reflecting these values. And this is shown with Merida as well, as she's at a royal ceremony, very uncomfortable in her outfit and hides her face to avoid her breaching of nonverbal behavior. And then same exact with Merida again, where she's at the dinner table, puts up a very big scene and then hides her face. And that brought me to research question number 2. In what ways do Disney princesses resist this socialization, and to what ends? And I found that Merida and Anna gain more accountability over their intentional breaches when the stakes are higher. So Queen Eleanor states, a princess must enunciate. She doesn't doodle, she is patient, she rises early, compassionate, clean. Above all, a princess strives for perfection. And I think this very traditional idea is what is ingrained in many girls and young princesses, and it's a big struggle which presents themselves in the movie. So in response, and both Merida and Anna struggle to be heard, they, as a result, lash out in aggression, which in its own sense is an additional breach. And when both the novices are very, very motivated, they're willing to do whatever it takes in breaches verbally and non-verbally. So Anna says, combats Kristoff, a man. Kristoff says, it's too steep, I only have one rope and you don't know how to climb mountains. And Anna says who? You're distracting me. I'm just blocking out because I gotta focus here. So she will just argue and do whatever she wants to conquer her goal. And that brought me to my research question number 3. How can an examination of breaches in princess etiquette help us understand how embodied language and actions co-construct gender ideals on and off screen? So above all, I was very excited to realize that even as a princess, there's no right way to embody politeness. So I found that when both Merida and Anna do sacrifice their politeness and fit into a mold that doesn't actually bring out the best in themselves, they're devastated and they're not living up to their potential. And overall, once that they did reach and gain amends once the expert and novice bond was formed again, and they empathized with the novice and the novice empathized with the expert, everything was amazing. They were happy and just in love again. So Merida and her mom, and Elsa and Anna as sisters. So for next steps, I want to acknowledge that my 2-movie analysis does have its limitations. So Brave and Frozen take place in Western wealthy cultures, and I would like to bring my coding to other movies as well. And language socialization, like culture, is extrinsic. I would like to explore breaching in other cultures and see if I found the same qualities. In addition, expand to the following movies. And I'm curious, how are male characters socialized? I focused a lot on female characters, but there's must be so much more to unpack also with the male Disney characters. And as I reflect, I kind of realized throughout my research that I have been an expert and a novice for my entire life, where I grew up with 3 older brothers and a younger sister, and for the first 5 years of my life, I was a novice to 3 boys who were pretty crazy, did whatever they want, and I think that had an amazing impact on me where I just didn't really think twice about gender. But then once I had my younger sister, I love her, I started to behave in a lot more female expertly activities, such as ballet. And I wasn't really enjoying it at all. And I really wish that I had Merida when I was growing up, because in my eyes, there was something wrong with me that I didn't like ballet. I wasn't comfortable in these costumes, but I've been amazed just seeing the transformation and just messages that Brave sends, as well as Frozen, to younger girls. And once I started to participate in sports, that's when I was my happiest. And I hope that younger girls, as they watch Brave and Frozen, feel the same way. So thank you, Professor Billings and the Anthropology Department. It's been an amazing project, and thank you. Any questions?
Luke, so I saw this. I realized that. Yeah, it's just.
Great talk.
Thank you.
I saw an analysis a few years back where they did a social network analysis of Frozen,
Yeah.
and they actually found that while